How you connected with
Tартанге Тулку.
Yes.
Tартанge Tulku, when I was at university, my thesis was where the solutions to problems come from. My advisor, Dr. Green, says you need to practice an esoteric tradition recommending Buddhism. Einstein did this. So I found out that Tартанге Тулку came to Berkeley about 2 months before I asked this question. He lived in the avenues on Webster Avenue in downtown Berkeley. So I went there to go meet them. Now, when I went to the address I was told to go to, there was a Tibetan person. I said, is Tартанге Тулку here? He says, Tартанге Tulku is not here. He lives across the street. So I walk across the street and Tартанге Tulku is coming down the driveway. And as soon as I see him, I start to cry. I'm crying, tears everywhere. We sit down in the gutter on the street. And I cry for like 5 minutes. And we don't say anything. And then all of a sudden, Tартанге goes, and Joel Shefflin was his sponsor, he says, Joel, he can come to ceremony. That was when I went to the ceremony at that time. A year and a half later, I actually moved into Pimling Monastery in Berkeley. Now, I went there because my wife dropped me off on the freeway with $150, and she said, don't call, come back later, really later. And so I went to Tартанге and I said, is there a place to stay? And he says, oh no, all the rooms are filled up. There's no place here. But if you can find a place, maybe it's okay. So I wandered around, and in the basement, which was full of basement stuff, there was a closet about the size of this table underneath the stairs into the temple room. And I said, Lama, I found a place down in the basement. He says, okay. So I move in the basement down under the stairs into the temple room. I feel like a Harry Potter novel. Anyway, I lived there for 2.5 years.
In the closet?
In the closet underneath the temple room. But when I got this visualization that I took the map from, the protocol was that you had to do formal practices, and the visualization was given to you by the Lama. It was a very important thing. Well, what happened is I went into the altar and I stole one because I wanted to know what it was all about. And it's a very complicated thing, and I actually have a picture of the original one. Well, I put it on my altar in my closet in the basement. Now, Tартанге was really concerned about all the students, cohabitating with one another because they're all pretty much adults, and they didn't want, the nuns or the monks and the nuns, fooling around with one another. So wake-up call was at 6 o'clock in the morning. And so he came he found my room, and now he was on the 4th story. To get to my room, you had to come down all the stairs, through the kitchen, down the back stairs, down a hallway, through the dark basement. Getting to my room was not easy. At 5:45, my door bangs open, and here's Tартанге Tulku. He's a big man. I mean, he filled up my closet door. Well, what he found, I was sitting there, doing my meditation and chanting and doing my mantra. My altar was set up, and here was this visualization thing right in the middle of everything. And this was 15 minutes before you were even supposed to get up. And I was chanting like a mad mendicant, doing my practices and being very, formal. And I was sitting in the lotus, and the candles were there, and the lighting, the incense and all the bowls. I mean, it was just perfect. And he goes in there and he looks and he goes, and then, which means that he couldn't find anything to complain about. But I get this. And he slams the door and walks away. He never came down. 2.5 years later, he never came down again. But Tартанге he was really hard on folks, but he was really nice to me. And at one time, he actually gave me $5 for doing some amazing piece of work. And all the students were going, he gave you money? Tартанге doesn't give his wife money. But he was really good to me, and he was horrible to everyone else, and I have no idea why. But there's lots of stories. In fact, I met some Gyalta Rinpoche people up in Northern California in Ashland, And their history starts about 1976, which is, but I had been the Chopan to these lamas from about 71 to 76, so I know all the early stories. It turns out I'm the only one that does know all the early stories because I live with these people. So they asked me to write a kind of a commentary. It's maybe a biography. It's not necessarily an autobiography. And I'm calling it Lama Tales. And of course, Tартанге Тулку is, part of that Lama Tales. And I'm probably going to write it. And I've started it, but I think it's a good name.
And finish with the story with Tартанге was
What do you think?
in that when he signed up the Sonoma.
Okay, partly it's when you do a mala, for your practice, it's 108 beads, and it's a way of counting your meditational practices, which go up to 100,000. Well, I spent a lot of time getting this mala together, and I was at Sonoma State, and I got some what's called scintillation plastic. This was used in bevatrons to check atomic particles. But when in the dark or in the room, it was white. When you went outside, it turned purple. He really liked that for some reason. Anyway, I fixed this whole thing up, and I gave it to him to bless. And so you give it to the Lama and says, "Would you bless the mala?" And he took the malas and he put it in his pocket. I go, "Oh man, what do I do?" So I asked Joel Schefflin, I go, "I gave the Lama my mala to bless and he just put it in his pocket." And Joel says, "Oh, that's very good. Very good luck. Very, very good merit. Very good luck. You're very fortunate that he does this. You're very fortunate." I go, "He took my mala." And he said, "Don't worry, it's okay." And I go, so I go, "Well, I have to go make another mala." He had that for like 2 months. And then he was buying the temple up at Sonoma, up in Sonoma, and he was going to sign the newspapers. And I saw him using my mala on the way out, and so the people that took him there, he said he did use that mala for the whole negotiation before he signed it. And then like 2 or 3 days later, he gave it back.
To you?
Yeah. And he says, "Oh, I think these are yours," something like this. And he puts a mala in my hand, and I went like this. Oh! I mean, I dropped like a foot. It was like the mala weighed like 100 pounds. And I go, oh yeah, I guess we collected some stuff along the way. Anyway, I had that mala for a bunch of years. It was like a glass crystal bead mala with a simulation plastic on it. Anyway, it's a pretty good story, and one of the